for tuning back in to your favorite channel, Pelican Bay K9's Dog Talk and News, giving it to you the way I always do. Fair and unbiased, some gonna like it, some ain't, man. Y'all hit that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet. That way you be in the loop when the video dropping. Don't forget to hit that like button and don't forget to drop down in the comments as well. Big salute to all the brothers and sisters down in the chat right now. Big salute to all the brothers and sisters watching this video, sitting on the couch, just laid back. You know what I'm saying? Salute to all the dog lovers and dog people that take care of them dogs from all over the world, from one side of the country to the other side of the country. You know what I'm saying? You in here with your boy PBK9s tonight. Got a special interview for you. We gonna, do it like I always do it. Fair and unbiased, raw and uncut. You know, one thing about the Bay, man, I like to give you fresh content. You know what I'm saying? Content stealing, it ain't my thing. I like to give you fresh content, you know. And today we gonna talk about them red boy dogs, them Jeep dogs. We talking about a little bit of everything. But what I will tell you, you know, got a special interview for you, but I made a mistake. You know what I'm saying? I made a mistake. 5 minutes, roughly 5 minutes to 7 minutes at the beginning of the video was chopped off, you know, because I made a simple mistake. Forgot to push the record button. You know, forgot to push the record button. But 5 minutes was cut off, and we didn't talk about too much. We were just talking about the 3 popular dogs from the Carolinas, which was Red Boy, Jackson's Hank, and a dog named Willie. Willie, Red Boy, and Hank was all we was talking about. And the brother was saying basically those dogs were on the same level. I asked him which one, you know, from 1, 2, 3, how would you categorize them? He said, you know, they pretty much was equal. Only thing about it, Hank and Willie was a little more faster than Red Boy, but far as their, you know, overall about each dog, they was pretty much equal. All 3 were great dogs. You know, we didn't really get into deep detail about the dogs, but we were just speaking on it. And we spoke on the about Roddy Piper, the wrestler, Roddy Piper, before he really got deep into the wrestling, when he was just coming through this, you know, coming through the state, because I was asking him about, you know, South and North Carolina, being that they were big hubs for wrestling back in the days. Did he meet any more wrestlers? But, you know, we just talking about Roddy Piper, you know, and, you know, the video, like I said, 5 minutes, at the most 7 minutes was chopped off, but y'all enjoy the rest of this interview. PBK9s, y'all know where y'all heard it first. Y'all know where y'all get it from the best. You know what I'm saying? Check it out.
Have enough weight advantage of any sort to do anything with that big rascal. And in July too, dog days, good Lord. So he was a very good dog, man, getting around that. Now, one thing I want to clear up, I know a lot of these fellas, some of these fellas got dogs bred off of Jeep. Yeah. I ain't trying to bash him. What I was saying about Jeep was I didn't like his style. I like the rascal dogs much better. I like real powerful built dogs with a lot of that are fast action dogs. Mm-hmm. You know, move fast and all that. So, but I had a friend that his last name was Hill, Marty Hill. He had a dog called Johnny, and this dog was bred down. One or two of I think the dogs that he was bred out of. He was a brother-sister bred dog. He was a double-bred Jeep Rage dog. He was a nice-looking, Carver-type looking dog, and he was a good acting dog and all of that. There wasn't nothing wrong. I liked him. And some of that, I think he was kin to maybe them Dunlavy dogs. Maybe Garcia might have used some of that stuff. Mm-hmm. But anyhow, that's what this dog was. And Marty was a master. He was a master electrician. He did big contracting work. He run a contract. He run a crew of electricians. He was elected master electrician type work, and so he'd go out. He'd be out of town sometimes a week or so at a time on different jobs. But I had 2 of them little black females off of Jackson's Toonie dog and my face bitch. And I had that big barn and I had built, getting it set up, build that round table in and everything. And so I needed lights out there. And the barn was about 30 feet away from my house. And so I asked Marty. I said, Marty, I'll give you these two little females. I'll give you these two little females if you'll come wire up my barn. Put fluorescent lights and all that and plug-in plugs, power plugs. And he came. He did that, and even to this day it still works. That's how good a worker, craftsman he was. And them dogs turnout were looking extremely good. And he took them up to he was planning on breeding them back to his Johnny dog. And he took them up to about 16 months of age, maybe it's somewhere around that age group, maybe 18. He took them up there at the Fat Bill's. Fat Bill had a little personal private show. And when that got over, he went and got a couple of his dogs to, bump them with, show them. And they just went through them dogs like a hot knife through butter, extremely fast, good, strong mouths, and putting everything where it's supposed to be put. And so he was real excited about that. And of course, Vernon was there, and I feel some other dog men. But anyhow, he took them back, and about a week or so later, somebody came on his yard and stole those two female dogs. And he got so discouraged from all of it that he got out. He just quit. He quit the dogs. He got rid of his, I don't know what all he did with his dogs. He got rid of the rest of his dogs, and he went to race car driving on a dirt track. He switched from dogs to dirt track racing, and that was the end of that. And so I don't know what happened to them two little females. They went to somebody, and they did whatever it did with them. I reckon if they were any good and panned out, and they bred them, then I reckon they were, they probably got papered some other kind of way. Yeah. But that's what happened on that deal. But as far as the Jeep dogs, I saw these good dogs. They were very good dogs bred out of the Jeep and the Jeep Red Boy stuff. And those people that have them, and they like them, hey, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't want to say nothing bad against Bob Finley. Bob Finley was a heck of a dog man, and he was a very good dog man. He was like Mr. Burns. He was a gentleman, easy to get along with, just a fine fellow all the way around. And James Crenshaw was too. James Crenshaw was a nice fellow. Yeah. But I just like his rascal stuff. I like them rascal dogs. I like them better.
A lot of people favor that rascal stuff. I never really dealt with too much of that rascal stuff, but I hear a lot of people talking good about it.
Yeah. Well, see, that Gunner stuff, that was some Mayfield stuff there, Giroux and all that. Mm-hmm. Some of that he played around with, and the Brahman Snake Dog, some of all that stuff. I didn't see. I mean, some of that would turn out okay, but personally for me, I didn't care for that. I liked the way them rascal dogs, the way they looked, the way they were put together, the way they were built. I liked a real Tudor looking kind of dog, a bull terrier type looking dog, long and good, plenty of bone in them. And when that Hawaiian, that Bailey fella, he bred dogs to Vernon's dogs. He had red boy dogs. Bob Holland and him. He had red boy dogs, and they made breeds back and forth with Vernon's dogs, and they got good dogs. Mm. Everybody don't tell you everything they did with all their dogs. A lot of people kept to themselves. Yeah. There was a fellow that his name was Russell, and he had some red boy stuff that he bred off of that Prince dog of Mr. Truitt's. And he got good dogs, and he showed them, and he won with them. And these pictures of them over there on the online pedigree, and they gorgeous dogs. And but the pedigree on the onlines on that Prince dog, actually, it was. I mean, Cecil used him, bred him a bunch. And also, Mr. Truitt got him. He had built him a good yard off of that. So I gave him a bitch called Black Beauty. Mm-hmm. It's Truitt's Black Beauty or Truitt's Beauty. She was a black dog. she was off of my face bitch, and a little dog that was a good bred little dog up the road from them Zetterquist boys. He had a little dog called Critter, and it was a good breeding on them dogs. And I let him I traded her. I had some more of them dogs, but I traded that dog for that female dog for. He had a little boomerang bred bitch off that Mr. Ugly dog he had was a John Lloyd boomerang bred dog, and a little bit of my other stuff off my yard in her. Her name was Missy, and so I borrowed Missy to breed to my Winchester dog and see what I would get. And he took Beauty and raised her up, and he won one show with her against Powell. And then later, when he bred Prince to Beauty and got that Dolly dog, she was called Garner's Dolly now. When Dolly was show age, I would come down and challenge Dolly, and he lost again to her. And then after that, that's when the Jackson come down from Texas. He come down and traded a nice Kubota tractor and a trailer and everything for Dolly, and took her back down to Texas. He won with her there, and then Gardner come and got her. He got her and bought her, and he won with her. And then I heard later. I heard later that she'd gotten stolen off his yard, and I don't know if he ever recovered her. But I think that's about when he started building all them pens.
Yeah.
Building them real pens that people can't go in there and steal his dogs, and he put a big fence and all around everything. And so I don't know what will happen there. I do know a man that was living down this way. He had a granddaughter off of Dolly, and she was a good looking thing. I said, man, that's a good looking dog you got there. But I don't know what all happened to them dogs. But that Prince dog was a producer. And the thing is, you want to know exactly how he was bred, and this comes straight from the horse's mouth, because I called Cecil and sit down, because I called him. I said I wanted to go over that pedigree with him, and we talked, and because you have to remember, he had that Bose dog. That Hampton's Bose dog was a full brother. He was a full brother to that Johnson Rage dog. And so here's the neat thing. He'd call me sometime back. We're talking about a good while, because all this is stuff that happened a good ways back.
Yes.
He said, when I talked to him, this was back in 2000. I documented everything on the Pitbull database. I talked to him on 04, 06, 2015, and we had a personal conversation about the breeding on the dog. And he told me that the Prince dog, Truett's Prince, was off of June's Bose. Them June boys, Al fella had him, and the Parker boys, they had like a combined group there. And they called him June's Bose at that time. Frank Jacobs later had him, and then Joey Bunch had him after that. And Joey Bunch is the one that shot him because he hurt his little girl. But that Bose dog was off of Buster and Morgan's Whitey, the same way off of LaPosse's Buster, and the same breed as the Rage bitch was. And then here's where it gets the correct breeding. So he had called me a good while back. He told me, Johnny, he said he bred that Bose dog to my face bitch. So they bred the face bitch. I was one of the last one to own her. Chandler and Cecil and them, they bred dogs off of her. And I understand it might have been some Palin might have got a bred to her. I never could talk with them Sheffield boys to know for sure. But anyhow, I'm trying to get this thing moving on. That dog off of Bose and my face dog was Middleton's White Gal. He called me about that. That was years ago, years and years. He said, Johnny, I'm getting white dogs. I said, you are? He said, yeah. He said, off that Bose dog and that face, they're white. I said, are they white and they got little black tickings in their skin? He said, yeah. I said, well, that's a good thing. There ain't nothing wrong with that. I said, don't do nothing with them. And they turn out being good dogs. And one of the starting out it was Middleton's White Gal. And off of Bose and Face. And he bred White Gal back to a Rebel Kennel's Sundance dog.
Mm.
So that once again you got to remember, Face was off of Middleton's Black Betty. She was out of Holt's Jeremiah 2 times, and Jeremiah was a full brother to Buster. And so Sundance was off of Buster, and that Morgan Sandy, she was Midnight Cowboy and Davis Piggy. So they bred Sundance to White Gal, and then get this, you got another one. Her name was Middleton's White Baby. She got white too.
Dang.
You got another one.
Dang.
And he took White Baby and bred her back to Bose again. And that's how that Prince dog was bred. He is bred out the Gazoo. He is an extremely well-bred dog. And of course, they got 17 offspring listed off of him. But Mr. Truitt had a yard of dogs bred off of that Prince dog. He was getting into some really good dogs, and he still had some of his old Red Boy stuff, some of the last of it. And he was getting into some really, really good stuff. And that's when that Humane Society people just walked on his yard. No, everything they did was illegal, but they made their mind up when they got the dogs to kill the dogs. And they killed Prince and all of them, killed them all. Set him here, put him, not like me, put him out of the dog business.
Yeah.
And, but he sued them. He sued the Humane Society and won a big lawsuit. I mean, a big lawsuit. And, but it's still, for all the money he got, he'd have probably rather still had his dogs. He was just that type of fella. He liked his dogs. He had some good ones there at the last, especially off that Prince dog. Middleton tried to buy Prince back. He went back and talked with Mr. Truitt and offered him twice the money back what Mr. Truitt had paid for the dog. And Mr. Truitt said, no, I don't want to sell him. I'm going to keep him. And so, but that's how that dog's bred. That's the correct breeding on him, and that's coming straight out of the mouth of the man that bred the dogs.
Yeah.
And so anybody wants to know the truth of it, sometimes you got to call the people, run them down, and talk to them personally.
Mm-hmm. No.
But
can you hear echo? Can you hear echo with me when I speak?
Echo? No, I don't hear an echo.
Okay.
So that was Marty, and I want to straighten the stuff out on the Jeep dogs. I wasn't trying to put the dogs down and whatnot. And Mr. Truitt, my dog partner, and Mr. Gaines was at that Homer Jeep show. But you understand, Mr. James was top of the line dog conditioner.
Mm.
You don't just go matching into him with just any dog or whatever. You had T's and I's and all. You had to have everything crossed and dotted. You had to really be on your game. You just weren't going to just steamroll over him.
Yeah.
And he could get a dog, and he just could get a lot out of a dog. He get out of a dog other people couldn't do it. My dog partner was the same way. He could get a dog to do more, particularly females. He had a knack for females. He could just really, really good with the female dogs. But I just want to tell anybody out there that's listening, you got good dogs, and you got Jeep in them, but you also got to consider Honey Bunch too now. And there ain't nothing. I'm not knocking any of that, because like I said before, if you got dogs that are good dogs, they're good dogs. I mean, you can't control everything that happened in the past. And you had good dog men like Mr. Hensel. You had lots of good dog men that whatever they said they were bred, they were. I tell anybody when you see my name, as far as the first 2 dogs, I can't say what happened 10 years back and all that, but I can tell you the first 2 dogs on my listing, that's what they were. I never tried to. I didn't see no reason fake papers and things like that. I didn't see no advantage to nobody. I looked like it hurt the dog game myself.
Yeah.
And but those things went on. But the bottom line is this: the first 4 generations is what you kind of have to look at. And then if you got good dogs, you like them, they make you happy. Just like your dogs, you like your dogs, you happy with them. You're the one that pays the feed bill and the vet bill and all that, and that's all that matters.
You're right about that. Hey, let me catch everybody up. Before I ask you another question, let me catch everybody up to what we were speaking on. We was talking about Red Boy, Willie, and Hank, 3 of the most popular dogs in the Carolinas during that back in the day's time, and some of the dogs that they produced and things like that. And because a lot of brothers probably didn't come in at the beginning of the interview, and so they didn't catch on. So I was just catching them up to what we were speaking about. But I wanted to ask you, when it comes to the black and brindle Red Boy dogs, where's that coming from?
It's probably coming from Cleo. She was a black dog. Okay. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I had it wrote down. There was a Dogman. There was one fella that was making comments. See, a lot of people don't know, and I want to let them know that on the Pitbull Bible database, I'm CYJ. And if you see me posting on any of these sites here, like yours and some of the others, Mr. Garcia and so on, I use I had it wrote down on a paper here. I use on my YouTube. I use King something. It plays to a trumpet. I had it wrote down, and I done shift papers around, and now I don't see it. But let me see if it's over here. I'm 1976 King Golden Flare. That's a very, very highly sought after trumpet. I had one of them. I played trumpet and cornet and flugelhorn, and I still play a little bit today. Now, we did up to that COVID messed everything up. I have a saxophone player, and alto saxophone player. He played the lead. I just can play harmony. We don't play no real complicated music because I can't think that fast no more, and I can't do any of that. I just play what do you call a third or fourth trumpet.
Yeah.
The harmony, and we just play basic church hymnals, and a professional, semi-professional player, that'd be easy stuff to them.
I hear you on that.
But anyhow, that's who I am. So if you see me, because one of the guys posted on there, what was the question he asked? I asked him. I said he seemed. Dogman. There was a Dogman that lived so many miles down the road from Mr. Bass, and he had dogs directly off. And he might have had that cat bitch, but he had dogs directly off of Red Boy and Cleo. He had about 20 of them dogs out there, and so them talking about color. Some of them were red brindle, red nose, or red noses, and some of them were black dogs. Some were brindle dogs. He had different colors, but they're all out the same breeding. And that fancy bitch that Raul had, she must have come off of his yard because he's the one that had her. And she was a little red nose, red brindle female, and so. And it's possible that the cat bitch may have been off of that yard too, but I don't know. I forgot the man's name. He was in Dillon, South Carolina too, and he was right some ways down the road from Bass, but not a great distance.
Yeah.
And they might have been dog partners or something. I just don't know all the details. But and so I'm sure Katie and a lot of them might have got dogs from him. Eventually, I think he sold his dogs off, and some of maybe the hunt fella and some of them guys, different people might have got dogs from him as well.
Mm-hmm.
And see, another is the connection with Mr. Mims and R.E. Bass. The connection between them is, and Mr. Mims could he got along with Bass because what they had in common was boxing. Mr. Carl Mills was a Golden Gloves boxer when he was a young man.
Yes.
And Bass's son was a Golden Glove boxer. And also, if they don't know it, those Gainey boys, Mr. Gainey's, they were Golden Glove boxers too. And so I said, yeah, but Mr. Mills usually could get, he could get the straight of things with Mr. Bass.
Yeah.
And I think he got a lot of dogs. I mean, some of his dogs might have came directly off of. I don't know if he got dogs. He might have got some dogs from Katie. I don't know where all he got all of his dogs. A lot of his red boy stuff that he had a lot of the older version of it.
Yeah.
And then if you talk with EWO, he'd tell you there's about 3 versions of those dogs.
Red boy dogs.
And yeah, and they're crosses.
Yeah.
And so some showed a little better than others.
Mm-hmm.
And but regardless, in their pure form of breeding, they needed that hybrid cross. If you put like a rascal dog or even the Jeep dog may click good with them, and some others, a Chinaman, and that Chinaman stuff. Them boys that call themselves the PD Kennels, they had some of that Chinaman red boy crosses, and they did good with those dogs. And like I say, and one guy made a mention of a fella had another female off of that red boy Cleo breeding. Red boy was a red boy's sister. They may have been another one. The only one that I knew of was the one that Lewis Miles had. He had one female, and she was a black. I think she was a black dog, and she just wouldn't fight. She wouldn't do nothing. She was a cold dog, and he just shot her. Back then, a lot of times they'd shoot a cold dog.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't shoot a cold dog if they're well bred.
Yeah,
especially a female. Sometimes the other sisters of that dog can be high strung and won't raise a darn dog. Whereas that cold dog, she'll raise them puppies and take excellent care of them. And I say you got to give it one try. They made breedings off of a cold bitch at Tombstone, and Randy Fox is telling that whole story on his site. There was a lot of good dogs come off of that female. And another thing about Red Boy, it jumped in my mind, and talking about that Fang dog, they was the Cordova breeding in that dog too. And I don't know if it was in Red Boy, but there was the Cordova breeding in that dog.
Oh, wow.
And that might explain some of the size. There's a lot of Mr. D. Cordova's dogs, Bill, I think his name was Bill, but it's D. Cordova. I might not be pronouncing his name right. But the dogs that he had, Randy Fox knew him well. His dogs were big dogs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Let me take me something here to open my finances back up. I want to go a little bit into any more questions on Red Boy stuff? I mean,
well, I was going to ask you, did you consider Red Boy one of the best producers that ever lived?
Well, yeah, he's right up there in the rest of them. If he wasn't no good, there wouldn't be so many of them.
Yeah, you're right about that.
I mean, there's a lot of people happy with them.
Yeah,
that's the way I look at it. If there's a lot of it out there and they happy with it, I don't know what the Hank dog could have done. He didn't get bred but 2 times, and I don't know what else and they might have could have did another repeat breeding on on that Queenie bitch and got some more of them dogs. It's just hard to say. But yeah, the thing is, he stood the test of time.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, that's how you have to look at it. Whatever stood the test of time up to today, they had to be something going for them for to go on like it went.
Mm-hmm. Right about that.
Let me tell you, any other questions about Red Boy? And for
like
I say, they did come in different colors. They didn't all come red nose, red brindle or red or whatever. And I explained all that over there in one of the articles on Pitbull database. And like I said, that first litter of them dogs, I saw most of them.
Yeah.
And I had one of them on my yard for a while. The bouncer dog, he was a tiger brindle, and he was a good acting dog and everything. I didn't have nothing, didn't like him. A Navy SEAL ended up with him.
Mm.
That's who he was the last owner of that bouncer dog.
I heard about the bouncer dog.
The fourth guy had a big one. He had a big red. He was a big red black muzzle dog. And he was a rough customer. And then, like I say, but anyhow, they didn't all come red nose. You got red brindles. I tell you look at some of them dogs. They even come brindle with white on them. I think one of them dogs at Katie's, that was one like Mr. Bulldog. I think he might have been a buckskin or something, but I don't remember for sure.
Yeah.
But there was another one. I forgot his name. He's got a picture of him. He's a brindle with white on him, brindle and white. That was one of her better stud dogs. He was a good size looking dog, and they had more of a look like the old friend of mine type dogs. They had really, one of the things they did had noted for is what I noted about them was they did them that they were. They had they had good air. They had good breathing air on them.
Okay.
You got to have good dogs that can breathe. If they can't breathe, you might as well go do something else.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many factors go. It's just like an athlete, in boxing or any kind of athlete. He's got to have certain attributes that he's got to be born with. If they don't have it, it's like a weak link in the chain. If they don't have good bone structure, good tensile strength, good lungs, all those factors play into everything. Because if they can't breathe, they can't do nothing. A short-winded dog can't breathe. That's why you miss a lot of them old stocky dogs, little stocky, barrel-chested kind of dogs.
Yeah.
You don't want to mess with them kind of dogs. You want lean dogs, long, lean. A good amount of chest capacity going down up under there. It ain't wide. It's the lengthways down.
Yeah.
And so those kinds of dogs they're more athletic than a barrel, what I call a barrel chested type of dog. And also another thing you got to watch is on them back legs. If that dog's legs are real straight when they stand all the time and they real straight up and down, almost like you could put a ruler on the back of it. It is real straight. A lot of those type dogs will be weak. They'll be weak in the back end. They don't have that natural bounce, like coil springs in the back of their legs. They can't bounce.
It's a name for it. What's the name for it they call it? I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't know.
I know now. Cowhawk is one of them.
That's it.
Where the legs and all turn out.
That's the name.
And fiddle front.
Yep, and fiddle front.
Yeah, but usually the ones, and sometimes they show up in a lot of Dabo dogs. It's a real straight leg. I mean, he's standing normal. They move normal. When they stand, the leg don't have enough bend in it.
Look like they tippy-toeing.
That type dog, that dog can't take the pushing. You push him. He can't bounce. He can't give and bounce, and it won't be long for the dude to be over with.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So you have to factor all of that. That's what was so unique about the Red Boy, the Jonko Red Boy crosses. Now, some said some of the Dogman says a lot of them were too slow. But the thing about it is, as I said before, they were big dogs. You could take a 45-pound dog, put up against just a local 45-pound dog, and he'd be longer and be taller and bigger bones, but still weigh the same. And that's a big advantage.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big advantage.
Yep.
Anything else about the Red Boy?
No, sir.
Okay. I want to talk a little about Baker Davis.
Okay.
It was Baker Davis, and then what? Long after that, James. They started rolling in there with those Carver type dogs, and a lot of them local North Carolina dog men. They weren't holding up too good to them. They was just a different kind of animal, powerful dogs with a lot of hard mouth and whatnot. And what I don't know is that there was a veterinarian many years ago. He messed with the dogs too. I've seen him a couple of times at some shows, and he did a little dabbling in it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And from doing all that, he gained a lot of knowledge on how to treat dogs after how to do with them in the keep, and also in the recovery.
Yeah.
And so Baker and them combined fellas and Mr. McDougal and them, over time, he shared all that information with them because he got out, he quit with it, and he shared that information with them. And what they used, and see, Vernon got that information too. And if you knew how to do it, you still had to have your dog in shape. Now, don't misunderstand me. You can't take other stuff and make win with a dog. You have to have your dog in good shape. They had a group of medications, and all three of them had a V on the bottle. You'd see a V. And what these medications were designed for was to take a dilapidated dog that maybe was seriously, blood count was really, really low, close to dying from parasites, or a dog that had been hit by a car or something, was in a lot of trauma, and they had to get the dog stabilized to be able to, do whatever they had to do to the dog. They had to do to the dog. And the first three were, one of them was Winstraw V. That was the steroid. And then they had some type of a B complex, a really specialized souped up type of a B complex. It had a V on it too. I used to know the names of it, but I don't know no more. Yeah. And then he had an iron complex. And it was entirely different from just regular iron shots. Entirely a different animal. And it had the V on it. And then the other thing that they used, and my vet discontinued it because they had to put dogs up in small kennels. Yeah. And this stuff, one of the things this stuff did was it was far superior to any of the other type, like Dex and all that. It would make the dog drink a lot of water, so he did a lot of urinating, which is a good thing if you got a sick dog. You're working them kidneys, or the dogs keep the dog going in shock, get the kidneys working and all that. Yeah. It was a wonderful thing. But they would urinate a lot, and so they would have to change the paper and all at the dog kennels a lot. So my vet found me dry. He said it was wonderful, and he said I'll use it occasionally. He said, but it caused so much problem with having to keep the kennels clean. Mm. And urinate so much. Yeah. But it was called, I think it had 2X on it, but it was called Pre-Death 2X. Pre-Death 2X. If you ever pull it up on internet, you'll see how superior. I mean, this stuff was something else. And then Dex, and you had your Dex. And so the way it was used on the Winstraw, and then some would do on male dogs, they'd do the testosterone, and then there was another called Anavar. But I think the Winstraw didn't have any emasculizing effects on a female. And so if you read some of them keeps them guys put out on them steroids, I looking at them, I said, my Lord, you guys are giving them dogs enough steroids for a dang on bodybuilder. I said, good gracious, no wonder the dogs screwing them dogs up so bad. But you only give a quarter of that Winstraw, you only give 1/4 of a cc. Using a diabetic needle with a long needle on it. It was 1/4 of a cc on one rest day out of in the conditioning keep. where the one primary rest day came up. That's when the Winstrol and the B complex iron it was given. Now the pre-def was not given, or the Dex. It was just the Winstrol, B complex, and iron. And of course, the steroid was given at 1/4 of a cc. That was it. All it was trying to keep the dog, help keep the dog in an anabolic state, keep him feeling good, keep him. If he might have been getting a little tired, need a little more faster recovery, it would help all that. Kept them on count, and also it did a lot with their blood count. Really helped that blood count build. The dogs, you put their lips up, they would look like they were going to bleed blood out their gums. They were so red, and so that helped all that. Now, after the 30-hour feeding, and so anyhow, let's get back to Mr. Davis.
Yeah.
That's what they all knew. And then my dog partner, when he was living in Florida, and so he spent a lot of time around all them fellas. They were all good friends. He would go up to the university in Georgia, and he told me, you would not believe them professors, that dealt with dog food, anything to do with dogs, animal science. He said, I'd set up an appointment. He said, Johnny, whoever I was talking with, they'd sit there and talk to me for 2 or 3 hours. He said, they that's what they loved. He said, I'd write down all the kinds of questions I wanted to ask them about the feeding and one thing and another. He said they just tell him everything they knew. And some of the things we learned is on that last time appointing the dog, if your dog was light at 12 hours, your dog was weighing light, because you take the water away at 24 hours, and then you start. And at 12 hours, you start your weighing process. If that dog was weighing light, you could add X amount of ounces of whatever kind of fluid you were going to use to try to keep the dog on weight and keep him hydrated. Yeah. A lot of people said, no, we're going to dry them out. We're going to dry them out. No, that's the wrong thing to do. And so, in other words, a dog could pass in 12 hours. Any fluids you give a dog, we're talking about liquid fluids. A dog's kidneys, we're talking about what's not absorbed into the body. The dog will pass that water in 12 hours. And even Crenshaw said, I reckon it was some kind of a little more desperate on the weigh-in, and there's maybe a lot of money laying on that weigh-in. He said he in his book, he said you could go up to 3 hours. But my vet said you could do it 12 hours and up to 6 hours. He said in 6 hours, the dog would clear that fluid. So you at least could do 12 and 6. And if the things were desperate, you could shoot for the 3.
Yeah.
And so that was some of the stuff that they learned and did. And when it comes to that pre-def X stuff, that was the 12-hour mark. And I don't know the exact dosage now, but I would safely say a cc of the pre-def went into the skin, underneath the skin, at 12 hours. And then at 6 hours, 1 cc of Dex at 6 hours. That was it. That was it on that. All went under the skin. And what it's done is the Dex would be working up front for the first so much time. It would be working up front, but that pre-def X took longer to work into the system. And so what a lot of them dog men couldn't figure out, they would see like some of the dogs and all, they'd be going at top speed. At first they'd get just a little bit hot. They'd hassle just a little bit of water. And then about 5 minutes, you'd see the dog take like a bellow. You just take a big, deep breath. And then from then on, that dog could go full speed and he'd breathe like a bellow. Just deep, slow, deep breathing. Mm-hmm. And then the other great, wonderful thing about it was, and it really got proven on that time with me and Mr. Powell, So he had a head specialist, nose specialist, no swelling, absolutely no swelling, no bleeding, no blood, no swelling.
Yep.
It was incredible. People looking at that deal saying, "My Lord, that dog's head ought to be big as a 5-gallon drum, big as a 5-gallon bucket or something, swole, and all that." But Powell, he knew too. He knew. In fact, he might have did some of the same stuff because him and Vernon, they spent a lot of time together. They were both Marines and all that, and so. But anyhow, that was the basic secret of the Sebbies and all, and them fellas used, and a lot of that they got from that veterinarian down there in Florida.
Oh wow!
And last thing, a lot of people. But here's the thing: all that's probably very, very difficult to get today. And if you don't know how to use it right, you can really mess a dog up. And here's the other thing about it: you had to do a 1-dog show. You can't go there and you go a third or fourth, you're gonna messed up big time because that dog would come to a peak. Within that time period, the dog would come to a peak, and any hours after that, he's going downhill after that. And so, and of course, I don't advise doing multi-dog shows today, But anyhow, that was it. And Mr. Davis, he rolled in there. He was taking names, kicking butt, taking names, and then later Crenshaw come in there, and he was he became a person to be reckoned with as well. So in other words, the times had changed.
Yeah. Yeah.
The methods were different. A lot of them were using the cat bills they just started doing. They just learned more about anaerobic training and aerobic training and anaerobic training. They learn a lot of different methods. The EWO fellow, what helped him a lot, and the way he did his dogs was his son was a real good wrestler in high school and whatnot. They did wrestling, and a wrestler has to train anaerobic. He has to have a lot of anaerobic training because of the type of event it is, type of what you're doing, and that's why a lot of people don't think hand walking dogs is good, but it is. It should be a good part of your routine. And if a fellow that lives way out in the country, he's going to have a big advantage over somebody living in the city, where that person cannot get out there, maybe try to go to the park without cause no problems, or try to get out in the country. But somebody way out in the country that's got a lot of maybe open farmland and stuff like that, they're going to have a bigger advantage. And I was like Mr. James. I believe in the hand walking. I think if you do the proper hand walking, including what else, what some other meal work you might do, what it does to me, in my thinking, is that when you get down to these short rows, that dog, they get a little break there, or they slow down a lot, or the dog gets down on the bottom, he can get back up. It helps him get back up. That's the way I saw it. And so, but I was a strong believer. I used a 30-foot rope, and I would tie every foot. I'd put a knot in that rope, because if that dog saw something, he was out there in front of him. He saw something. He decided he wanted to go. You have a glove or something on, and that rope could seriously burn your hand. You might let it go. And so I kept putting them knots in that rope in a loop as well. And that way I could reel him in and reel him back out, reel him in and reel him back out. It's those type of dogs, they out there walking and pulling like that, they get in shape. Yes, and it's a type of condition that don't overwork them. It don't overwork them. So it's not really complicated on the conditioning side of it. It's just hard work. That's all it is. You got to have everything. You got to have everything in place. If you're going to be, if you're going, also if you was doing the conditioning, that's all that I would do. I'd try to have a place way out somewhere and stay away from everybody, and that's all I'd do. I just have me just do the one dog at a time, and you got to have some different types of equipment in case you have the bad weather issues.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just depend on the cat mill by itself unless you live in the desert. You live out in the desert area where it hardly ever rains.
Now, since you said that real quick before we keep going, the weather. Have you ever seen the weather change? The weather make somebody have to pay a forfeit?
Yeah, if they can't, well, if they don't have the right, they don't have like a round table or one of them newer, nicer meals, and maybe an area that they can hand walk the dog. If they got behind, say it rained for 2 weeks and they got behind, you're not going to make that up. You can't make that up. You're not giving your dog a fair chance.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. You had a lot of them armchair dog conditioners. If they felt like going out and work, no, they did. If they didn't feel like it, they didn't, and they didn't do it on a consistent time. It has to be on a certain time. The main workout. Now, as far as the walking, you get up early in the morning and you walk them. You can walk them again in the middle of the day, however much walking you want to do, and then the main exercise at nighttime. Usually they do it at nighttime. But you got to be consistent, and the feed has to be fed at a certain time. It has to be consistent, and so that takes time. See, like with Mr. Crenshaw, he would take off from work, and he'd spend the whole time with the dog. He spent the whole time with the dog.
Mm.
He didn't go to work and come home and do whatever. He would take off, and if it was 2 months, he was going to be spending 2 months with that dog. That he spent the whole 2 months with the dog. He did everything with him. And if you ever look at his treadmill on the YouTube, where he's got the dog on the porch, it's raining out there, but he's got the dog on the porch doing that treadmill. But that ain't just any old kind of treadmill. I could be wrong now, but that mill he had was super extra wide. And only mills I ever saw like that was the ones they sold out of Germany. And they used them on them Schutz hound dogs, and they could run 2 German Shepherds on one of those meals. They could put 2 on at one time and run them. But the way that meal worked and all is very high dollar, high class made type of a meal. If you notice on there, if you're watching him, he mostly would let that dog mostly just walking it. Just steady walk, steady walk, steady walk. Now, he might speed him up a little bit, let him go back to a walk. But you'd also notice that while he was doing that, it was raining. It was raining.
Yeah.
And so you have to have some other things to back you up on bad weather days. You can't just depend on one certain thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you build a real nice big proper type round table, you got to build it to put it in. Yeah, if it's raining, you can't walk the dog. You can still do ample enough work, maybe two times in the day with that type of meal, and you'll be all right. And once the weather cleared up, you go right back to what you was doing. But and then I say I don't know nothing about those last type of treadmills they're making, and like $3,000 to $4,000.
Yeah.
They may be all right. I don't know. I don't know. I never. Only the kind that we dealt with, the better ones was made off them Volkswagen hubs. But they were slat mills, and they were wide slat mills, and you had to be careful with them because they had a lot of drag on them.
Yeah.
And it looked to me like they didn't make them wide enough. And if your dog's foot run down the edge of it, it could blister their foot, or them slats could pinch their feet. You had to be careful with a lot of that.
Mm.
So those my dog partner, he didn't do much with them. He had a treadmill. He didn't use it much.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Now I do got.
So but now when that hand walking, you want to have a good quality pulling harness like you have on them sled dogs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You don't want him pulling off the egg and choking himself. You want him on a pulling harness, and that way it don't get tangled up in his legs and stuff. Because I tell you try to walk him on a harness, on a collar, or even one of them little pretty tight harnesses that people put on dogs. Mm-hmm. Them dogs can fold. A pit dog can fold his legs and slide right out of that sucker. It won't hold him, but you got to have like a sled dog type pulling harness.
Yeah,
and then the rope and everything, and also that chain pulling. You got to know that within that hand walking scenario, you have to set up certain points, and you could a certain amount of weight of chain. You can throw that chain on there and let him drag it for so far, and he'd take it off and just go back to the hand walking. And some of that's done too. I know a fellow that did it like that, and he kept out of the limelight. He did it like that. And Buddy Roo, he turned one loose on you. He had the dog had wind, and he had power too. In other words, he probably, if he was going at a certain weight, the chain weight might have been, small dogs, it might have been 2 or 3 pounds above the show weight, or a big dog, he might be 5 pounds over. So he had that, the extra strength.
Yeah.
And so forth. Let me see. I think I went over most of what I wanted. Some of this stuff. And that guy that had those Red Boy Cleo dogs. And we did the popular dogs.
I did wanted to ask you about this part, about the Midland Outlaws dog. And do you think he possessed the same traits as the Red Boy, and why him and Red Boy is always in the same bag when people talk about him?
I don't know. I knew Mr. Midland. He was a real nice fella. Always wore a bow tie. And I didn't know that much about his dogs. He had a little bit of Joe Bill's, a good breed in there off of Joe Bill's stuff. And I think he might have been one that had that dog that they call Rose. That was real popular up that way. But they did breed some of that Midland stuff. Mr. Tills was the turkey farm dog. They called him. That's what they called him. He was raised up around a turkey farm. I think it was Jim Rayfield had him, and he was a real good dog. He was a champion. And the last time I saw him go, he won his show, but he had a rough time winning it. Normally he was just a really good dog, and he was a gut dog. And later, and after it was all over with, Mr. Till called him outside, and he said, "Did you work that dog right?" He said, "That dog didn't put out like he did in the last 2. Did you do him right?" And Jim told him no. He said, I got on the drum. I got on the drum. I didn't. I said, he said, I know I barely squeezed by. He said, if he had went the dog's stomach, it might have went the other way. But he was a really good dog. And I liked him. He was shot off of Till's Jeff. And he looked like a Kobe dog. He was marked like him, and he looked like him.
We're talking about the outlaw dog.
And I don't know if it was outlaw. It was a dog called
Turkey, the turkey farm dog.
Yeah, turkey farm dog.
Yeah, okay.
And I tried to get up with him, but I never could get up with him. And they later bred something. I don't know, it was off that Midland stuff. They bred turkey farm to. They had a dog, grand champion dog called Bobo. I believe it was Bobo. That guy's last name was Coleman. 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 Let me see if I can pull him up here. It's Coleman, Coleman, and a male. But I got his pedigree over here. There's a bunch of Coleman dogs listed in here, but it's Coleman's turkey. Yeah, Coleman's turkey. Showed him a 2-time winner, but I believe he won 3. And so that stuff, I noted in there that he looked like a Kobe dog. See, he come off of. See that he was off of Teal's Jeff and a dog called Kale's Brownie, and then that was off of Medlin's Rib, Mr. Medlin, and that rib stuff come off of Winningham. I knew Winningham off of Winningham's Tanner, and then Medlin's Red Lady, and Red Lady was off of McCraw's Snowball and Bill's Red Lady, and then there was another bitch in there called Burleson's Lady. But they bred that. They was 3. I only showed 3 offspring, and one of them was Grand Champion Bobo, and he let's see. There's a lot of Medlin blood in that dog. He had the Rayfield's Ginger, and Kale's Bobo, and Luther's Lady. All that was Kale dogs. And all them dogs had the Jeff dog bred in them, and the Medlin dogs. But I think some of that Medlin, and it might have been because of some of the old red-nosed blood that was back there, I believe, in them Medlin dogs, maybe through Mr. Joe Bill's dogs. It seemed to click good with the Red Boy stuff, because some of the Red Boy has the Medlin in it.
Mm-hmm.
But Mr. Medlin, if he got a good one, he would usually let Mr. Teal work it out. Him and Mr. Teal and Egan Skinner were real good friends, and so but Mr. Medlin himself, he wasn't a real, what you say, a dog man per se, is working them and things like that. He's more of just a breeder.
Yeah.
But usually he brought a good one, and Mr. Teal, I got to blow my nose. And Mr. Teal, if he brought one to Mr. Teal, they generally were a good dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't know a whole lot about his dog yard. I just knew him, and he was a real nice fella. And one of the craziest things I ever saw, I never thought I'd see this. There was something over a woman between Mr. Egan Skinner and Joe. Years ago when they were young men, something over a woman. And they must have reconciled about it. And they were standing out there outside behind the Bowman restaurant. We'd had some kind of show or something. And they were standing out there. And I heard Mr. Skinner say, Joe, these are old men now. He said, Joe, he said, I thought I told you that you'd never bring that up again. And he must have brought it up. And Mr. Skinner knocked the living daylights out of it, and they started scrapping out there. Mr. T walked over there. He said, look at you crazy suckers. He said, y'all go over and pull them apart. They can't even hurt each other. He said, stop it before one of them falls down and breaks a leg or whatever. You didn't know Mr. Teal, when he was a young man, him and his brother were boxers. They were Golden Glove boxers too, Mr. Teal and his brother. His name was, he called him Jocko. They were both Golden Glove fighters. But the last one I saw like that was Mr. Truitt in Bass. It was down there at one of these shows in Charleston.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was about, but Bass sucker punched Wesley.
And boy, that's when they went. And Bass clinched him, and they were going around there, and Wes was trying to get himself loose to really start. What he did, I mean, Bass, even as a young man,
yeah,
Wesley wasn't nobody to fool around with. He was he was not a mean person or anything like that. He was really easygoing, but he wasn't afraid. He wasn't afraid to get down, and he shingled roofs. He was a roofer. And them roofers, they ain't somebody you just think you can go over there and just whoop them.
Yeah.
Any man that can throw two things of them asphalt tiles on the back of their back and walk up a long ladder about 3 stories, tote it up there and put it down on top up on that roof in that hot summertime and put that roofing on. Man, that's somebody you don't want to just necessarily play around with.
You're right about that.
And then bricklayers, them that lay bricks and concrete block, he ain't somebody you want to fool around with either. And also them carpenters, them lanky wiry carpenters, and them loggers. Anybody that did logging.
Yeah.
A lot of those type men are very, very strong, powerful men, just for the kind of work they do. You got to have a lot of grit to do that kind of work. I knew a guy that laid bricks and concrete and whatnot. He could grab a chinning bar. He could grab it up with just his index finger and his thumb. He could grab it and hold it and do chin ups. He'd pull himself up. He had big old muscles in his arms. He could do chin ups, pulling himself up. He didn't have to grab the whole bar with his hand. But he laid them concrete blocks every day, day after day. Okay, I don't want to get too far off subject, but yeah, Bass and Wesley had a scrap. Yeah, I saw that. They didn't last long, you know. But
yeah,
but they.
So
anyhow, let's get on to something else.
Yeah. So if I was looking for the best, if I was searching through a couple lines of dogs back then, would I find a better dog searching through the Eli or through the alligator dogs back then in them days?
If I would prefer, to me, the alligator dogs.
Yeah.
And also, the sad part was the Hoot and Butcher boy killed that Samson dog. Boy, any of that stuff back then, it came down through some of that, particularly that Tudor's red bill blood and all that was in them dogs, and all that. But as far as the Eli dogs, I would have preferred the plumber guys, and Mr. Gilman, and then I would have went with the alligator stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just thought they were, but them plumber boys, I don't know them personally, but they were serious dog men, and they didn't mess around, and they didn't put down something that was just going to just hang around about 20 minutes, run off down the road. They didn't play that game.
I hear you on that.
Yeah. All them Texas guys had their hands on some good dogs back then. They really did.
Yeah.
Did you see
Did you see any of the banjo dogs?
The banjo?
Yeah.
Which banjo?
Well,
McCoy?
Yeah.
No, I didn't ever see him. I saw pedigrees on him and pictures of him, but I never saw him.
Yeah.
But around about 1999, as far I was inactive in the dogs way further than that.
Yeah.
I want to say again on here, if there's any of them petters and all that crowd out there, if they just happen to manage to be listening to, I got out. I quit dogs when it became a 3rd-class felony and no longer a misdemeanor. I had to wrap that up.
That.
What I'm talking about on here and the other interviews, all historical stuff that happened many 35, 40, at the age I am now, probably 40 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, that was, considering how things have gone and how things have went, that particular time era, right in the mid '60s and the '70s, right in there, even probably in the '50s, working on through there. They that was probably the best era of the dogs as far as people being able to have. See, back then people didn't know what a pit bull was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They do today. They do today, boy.
Yeah.
Anything that hurts somebody is a pit bull.
Mm-hmm.
And I listened to your interview, and I made some comments, but I tell you, my cousin, his wife was the head of her. They had these different dog clubs. She was the head. She was real big into English Bull Terriers,
Mm-hmm.
and she was over all that. And then they did the show dog Bull Terrier stuff and all that. Well, she had one of them suckers, and when I had to go work on their phone, they had to put that dog up, and I was looking. I was heading out. I talked with her, and we talked, and I did fix the phone off. And I was getting ready to leave, and I was heading out. I looked at the door, and these deep scratches all down that door.
Mm.
And I looked at it, and I said, "What in the world did that?" She said, "That dog." She says, "When then children come down through here from school and all, he hits that door trying to get out."
Dang.
I thought to myself, "You need to shoot that stinking cur." If he'd ever get out, he could seriously hurt one of them youngins.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yep. And so them English Bull Terriers and Rottweilers, there was a guy had some Rottweilers tied on a doggone cow chains. I said, "Mister," and I worked around fixing the phones. I run into lots of types of people and whatnot. And I said, "Mister," I said, "Those are some really nice looking Rottweilers. They were aggressive acting too. When I walked back there, boy, they got fired up when I had to go around behind the house to where the phone service was at." And I looked at what they had on them. I said, "My Lord, that new dogs will be that new chain. They're gonna hold them dogs for just a little bit longer, and they're gonna be loose. And then what's gonna happen then?"
Yep.
Yeah. Anyhow, it just is what it is today, and I just hope that. I mean, I feel sorry for those. I really feel for those children. And there's another thing about a biting dog and a territorial dog, and them territorial type dogs that kind of run in them Eli dogs. And my face picture's like that, and I suspect that Bo's dog was too. But here's the thing about that type of dog. You need to build a fence around them, no matter what. If you went into that face bitch's chain and she did not know who you were, she'd eat you up, and she wouldn't be playing with you.
Dang.
And I mean, she'd pull back from a strange person and give her some chain room, so that when they got in the right distance, that chain wasn't going to snatch her back.
Yeah.
But I could take her off that chain. I could have 10 strange men standing in my yard. I could take her off that chain and walk her up to them, and she wouldn't even pay them a bit of attention, unless one of them decided they're going to, make like they're going to hurt me or something, make a loud noise and try to make like they're going to hit me or something.
Yeah.
That probably wouldn't have been a wise thing to do. But other than that, she would pay them absolutely no attention. But on that chain, there's a different story.
Yeah.
It's only who she knew could go to that chain and pet her or feed her or whatever. And so it didn't matter about the feed. But now the other kind of dog, you go to feed that sucker, and he tries to bite you. He's trying to bite the hand that feeds him. Shoot that sucker real fast.
Mm-hmm.
I got one, Mr. Joe Bill, like that. I said, Joe, I ended up giving him one of my other dogs for a stud dog. His last stud dog he used off my Chuck dog. I told him, I said, Joe, I had to shoot that dog. That dog was too dang on dangerous. I said, if you'd have brought him back home and put him back in, you don't never know when he was going to attack you in your house. But he'd bring him in the house sometimes. He was a big dog. I said, you never know when he was going to attack you. I said, that sucker almost took my hand off. Dang. And I was just trying to feed him. And I shotgunned him, sent him on to the happy hunting ground.
But that's something you got to look at. But now, if you got an outright biting dog, that dog needs to be destroyed. And that's what happened to that Bose dog. Jerry should have he was supposed to should have built Joey should have built his name was Bunch. He should have built he had paddling dogs too. He should have built a fence around that dog. And because that dog got one of his girls caught her by the hand and mauled her hand. I might have told all that. And he shot the Bose dog. He shot him, and then he didn't shoot the rest of the dog. He shot him. That was the end of him.
Right.
And then he sold the rest of the dogs and got rid of them. Mr. Gainey might have got some. Who knows? Here's a sad story about Mr. Gainey's dogs. When them fellas lost interest in them, his sons and all, I reckon they just finally lost interest in all of it. And he was up in age. And when he got into dog game, he wasn't no young fella, but he made a tremendous splash when he did. You had to have your act together if you were going into him, because he had some really good dogs, and I think he had better dogs than Tant did, and that JR dog and all that. But anyhow, he called Wesley over there, and he said, "I'm through with it," and he said, "I've got a backhoe. I'm fixing to dig a big old hole. I want you to help me with the dogs." And he took them and shot every one of them and buried them. Yep. Actually, he could have sold them dogs probably $10,000 a piece. So he had it down to a science, and he had a cream of the crop. Last time I saw them, they were immaculate looking animals. They looked as good as them Mr. Hollins' them red-nosed dogs he had.
Yeah.
They were built like that, and they had that same beautiful build and immaculate health and all, and jumping off the subject. But anyhow, he got rid of them. He didn't let nobody have them, and so,
so that's why you don't got no Gainey's dogs floating around other than the
you don't
dog.
see none of them. He ended with Yep, because he had cream of the crop of that stuff. He could have helped. Even Wesley tried to get him one or two of us. They begged him to give them to him, because then they would have helped him with that, because he still had a little bit of that Prince blood up north, and he might have could have used some, bring him back to some of Mr. Gainey's stuff, got himself going again.
Mm-hmm.
And but he just would not. He said, "Nope." He said, "I don't want nobody else to have them." And I wasn't necessarily in a selfish manner. He said, "I just don't want nobody else to have them, because they might abuse them."
Yeah.
And that's what he did.
Dang. So I got one last question. Did you see any of Yellow shows or any of Yellow offspring shows?
I saw Yellow on one show. He was a slow dog. He was not a fast dog.
Yeah.
He was slow. He was big dogs. A lot of them dogs are Tants are big dogs. And I saw Yellow, but maybe one of his last shows or two might have been more, more competitive. But some of them, I don't know why he even brought them dogs. That one show I saw, and I refereed it. I asked, it was Jackie and Braddock. I said, "As good a dog as you had on that McLean dog, he had." I said, "Why y'all bring a dog like that? This kind of a dog?" I said, "He ain't even in the game." I said, "It makes me wonder how you got your bets laid." I said, "How y'all betting on this deal?" I said, "Man, where did y'all find this dog?" But the Yellow dog, I'm not gonna take nothing from him. He won 5, and he was not. That JR was a much faster dog, faster mouth, faster dog. I think he was a much as far as overall dog. I think he was the better of the two.
Okay.
And and another thing I always notice about dogs, and I like the trait. I like that trait if you had it. Of
back there, in your bloodlines.
Yeah.
Generally, you can see it really, really brought out real strong at looking at Mr. Holland's dogs on the YouTube. Somebody did a video of them dogs. You can look at them. One of the things they do, and my dogs did the same thing, they wag their tails down low. And like if you got the dog between your legs and you're doing a show or something, you feel them hitting your legs with that tail. They be wagging it and they hit it.
Yeah.
And they don't flag their tails. They stay down low. And if you notice on a lot of your Carver dogs, a lot of them dogs, you'll see that same trait. And I always said it was a bull terrier trait myself. And so a lot of times they had them, what they call a rat tail on them. All that, I liked all that. I like that, all that sort of stuff. Like I say though, they don't make them win though.
Yeah.
But it's a good trait. And there was one other thing, but I forgot it. But I hope I cleared up some stuff. These dogs today they all pretty well blended with a little bit of everything. Some of them are doing a little more family breeding. I did know a few fellows that were doing a lot more stricter family breeding. But even with that, you only can do it just for so long, and then you have to add something back into it.
Yeah.
And to get you got every now and then you got to put a little hybrid blood. But I think the safest way to do that is try to steady your pedigree out. And you got these real good tools today, like on the Pitbull database, where you can do test breedings of various dogs. Is you look at the predominant. Let's say your dogs use a lot of Chinaman, a whole lot of Chinaman, and you needed to add something. You might look at the pedigree of the dog, and you might see where they might have started out with maybe one of the first 2 or 3 breeds, to see some of them dogs that were used in their bloodline. If any of that's still around and it's still good dogs, then that would be a good choice to add it back in. In other words, what I'm trying to say is like this. I told Vernon when I found out about it, I didn't know it, but there was a young great grandson, I reckon, and I understand he's still living today. He'd be our age. Had some of them Kobe dogs down there in Texas, and see, for some strange reason, those Hensel dogs, they are hard. If you had some real straight Hensel dogs, they just didn't click with everything for some reason. And normally you see they'd only use about a quarter of it. So like Don Maloney uses a lot of Hempfield blood and about a quarter of that. And like the Rage bitch and all them type dogs, you see about a quarter of Hensel there. And so for some reason, unless if you bred Hensel dogs and Hensel dogs, you might have been all right if you kept checking them and whatnot, and they kept coming strong. But it didn't seem to really cross with anything else, that well overall.
Oh, man.
And they didn't produce that catalyst type whatever, and so that's one of the things in breeding. You got to look for that catalyst. Some of them catalysts, and it used to be some of them old family dogs. Somebody's kept or preserved them. I know back then that Tudor's Red Bill stuff was real good, and I think that some of them dogs that California Jack had, they were good, and maybe some still using some. If they still got some of their actual Red Boy, I understand his one fella still does. Yeah. And Katie sold all her dogs that she had that was left on her yard. I understand a Dogman from Tennessee come and got those dogs and took them back there. And I understand for once in a blue moon, every so often he has a pig picking. They don't do any. They just have just a pig picking. Everybody goes there and talks, and that's about it. Yeah. And I had the number and all. Her son Bo gave it to me. And I said, well, I don't have nothing in the game anymore. I don't have, I'm gonna just
I'm not going to call him. I said, I'm not driving all the way to Tennessee. And I said, I don't have no skin in the game no more. I just not done I mean, I could have won all and whatnot, but I said, no, I just leave it be.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I was trying to talk to Katie. I went there. She owns a transmission shop too. And I was trying to talk to her, but Bo came out and he kind of run interference on me. I think Bo and her, they had a kind of a falling out, is what he told me. That's her son.
Yeah.
And I was trying to locate a fellow named Rocky Nelson, see where he was at and what happened to him. And of course, Katie would have known because he spent a lot of time on Katie's yard. But he told me where he was at and whatnot, and he told me a little bit about what happened between Bass and Katie and how she ended up with the dogs. But he kind of he just wouldn't let me. I just wanted to go. I've been tempted to just ride back over there sometime and just go up there and knock on the door and ask to speak. I know she's still, running it or managing it or whatever.
Yeah.
But see, Katie, you wouldn't know Katie. You saw Katie when we knew Katie, and you saw Katie today or when she later on when she remarried. She married into a kind of well-to-do fellow that he run a lumber yard and all that, like Home Depot, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And
there in Florence, she married that fellow. He was an older man, and so she kind of just quit everything. And when I run into her one time, and she invited me to come. She was running a place where she had a business doing T-shirts and stuff, putting stuff on T-shirts.
Yeah.
And she invited me over there. She invited me to come over and talk with her. Well, nothing like that was on my mind anymore, and I should have went, and I didn't go. I might have could have got some good information out of her at that time, but now it's almost impossible to get to see her, to even talk to her. It's like I would love so much to sit down with her and go over some of it, and see because she did tell me that she had run the pedigree down. And the last thing, and this is the last rumor. 8-Man, I talked about 4 hours with 8-Man, and I brought up about the trice dogs that my daddy had.
Yeah.
And he said, let me stop you a minute about it. You said trice dogs. He said, and Mr. Till had trice dogs. He said a Dogman that talked with Katie, she told him that Red Boy Sire was a trice bred dog. Which, if all that was true, would make things even better. But true or not, we don't know. And if she had a pedigree, had run out of pedigree, I don't know. Yeah. She kind of talked like she had. And but nobody. There may be somebody that sit down and talk with her when she running that registry and all, and she might have told them. Because what I was wanting to do was, I made some copies of a lot of my pedigrees that I had, so she could help all the more pedigrees she could get from other dogmen. She could build her own registry, because you couldn't get nothing out of UKC. Yeah. If you could get all the breedings off of UKC, off your bulldogs, man, you talking about something that help a lot of everything. But they ain't gonna release none of that. Just ain't gonna do it. Well, all right. I reckon I've said enough. And one thing about Argo, that Argo dog,
yeah,
I liked him better than Jocko.
Argo,
just because he was a faster mouth dog. He was a really good dog. What happened to Argo is kind of what happened to our Homer dog. They sold Argo down the river. Them gamblers gambling.
Yeah,
sold him down the river, and he liked to not have lost. He come awful. He come really, really close to winning, even though he was not been put up, properly worked and all. He still liked to pull it off. Them suckers was sweating it there for a good while. But he was a bulldog, I'm gonna tell you that. And I will say that, and I might be said this before. Apples was holding her on with Molly B. She was keeping Molly B off of her. and that's when Mr. Edwards called for a fang, and so they instead of Scotty was handling apples. I think what they might have done, she might have been fanged and maybe couldn't get her fanged, but they had to break them apart. But normally you don't break them apart. The first thing you do is a good referee is going to have a stick or something with him.
Yeah.
And he can run it down in there and break the dog's tooth loose out of the lip. And they don't want to get them out of holes. And but what he did, he broke them apart. And you're supposed to put both dogs supposed to be had their feet on the ground. Scotty held Apples up with her feet off the ground. And when they turned them loose, Molly B went right into her chest. And that was the turning point then. And Mr. Chavis, he went bonkers. And he was telling Vern to call the foul. He said, Mr. Chavis, I can't call a foul. Your handler ain't calling no foul. Your handler's got to call the foul, and I got to recognize it. I said, he's the one that screwed up. I said, he's the one that put you at the disadvantage. And Mr. Chavis got mad at VJ, and he never had nothing to do with Scotty after that. Scotty used to handle all his dogs. And he never had to do with after that happened. And of course, they sent me later. They sent another daughter off of Molly B. Beat a daughter off of Molly B. Beat another one of Chavis's dogs in that same show. But they knew the Apples was holding her own there for a while, and which is highly unusual. I didn't see no other dogs hold her own. Period with that monster. And she had her, I think she was controlling her head. But when Scotty did what he done, they wasn't no chance that she could come back from that. That dog was just too devastating. And of course they finally had to pick her up.
Molly B must have been an animal.
Man, I'm telling you, you could just like a full-grown male lion hitting a zebra, running at full force, and all the dust go up in the air and everything. That sucker just done in. That's how she come at you. She come at you. She could move so fast. She was light, a big dog now, but she was lightning fast, and she just come with her mouth wide open. And wherever she put it, if she got into your dog's body, wherever she put it, that dog was seriously hurt. Yeah, I mean, you had to have a dead game dog, and then they couldn't win. Only thing you beat her is you had to have a monster like her, and you don't see them kind of dogs come along every day.
Yeah.
Those type ace dogs, you just don't see them.
Yeah.
And once in a blue moon, one of them will pop up, and she was one of them. And she had a tremendous lung capacity. You could look at her. But she won 8. She actually won 8 of them. No ifs, ands, and buts. They tried 8 times and beat her, and they did not one of them. So I don't think none of them. Most of them didn't survive. Yeah. She was a true double. I think she was a double grand champion. She was the real deal. And I think Harry Haregrove got her, and then somebody stole her. And I don't know what happened after. I don't know if they ever recovered her, but I think he might have got some dogs off of her. I saw the P.D. Kennel boys had one brought down here, and he was supposed to have been off of Molly B. And he was a really nice dog. I mean, everything was right about him, his actions and everything. And I told him, I said, boy, that's a really good dog. And they showed him against actually one Mr. Burns. He kind of got into some of them Jocko stuff and all. And it was real hot and all. And they just started messing with dogs. They didn't know all what to do. And it was real hot. And the dog was too heavy. They had him too heavy. And he put on a show. He went right down to the bitter end. And I finally told him, I refereed the thing. I told I think it was Mitchell. Mitchell picked the dog up. I said, "You ain't gonna get him. It'll be a while before you get another dog like this." I said, "This is a very good dog. Even though he's not gonna win today, he's a very good dog. Pick him up."
Yeah.
I said, "You bring him home to the house, I can save him." They didn't do it, and when they finally did pick up, he was too far gone. And I still tried to get him to come on to my house, and they didn't want to do it. And took him home, and he died.
Yeah.
But I think, and I'm pretty sure he was off of Molly B. And he was a really good dog. Now he wasn't the monster Molly B was, but he was still a good dog.
Yeah, yeah.
And poor Mr. Burns, he was stepping 5 foot off the ground. He fairly won him one. You'd have to know Mr. Burns. I tell you what, he was a heck of a fella.
Yeah.
You thought he'd won the $10 million lotto.
Yeah. Hey.
All right. I think that's about it. I looked at notes here, and I think I've said everything I can say.
Yeah.
And
I know.
just let them know if anyone want to PM me. I re-up my membership for one more year. I'm CYJ on the send me a private message. And let me say something about the cur dogs and all that.
Oh, go ahead.
One last thing. Vernon, when I sent him them 2 black dogs, Tango and Cash, an irate next door neighbor went and shot them. Those dogs they were showing tremendous potential. And then some of the dogs got drowned down there when he took the dogs back down there. But that Harley dog, and that Harley dog might have quit. Westy said he quit. Berta said no. I don't know. I mean, I didn't talk about none of this stuff to 25-something years later. But when I gave him that Harley dog, and I'm making no excuses for him, I told him he ain't like Tango and Cash. I said, this dog don't even, plays like a big old puppy. I said, you done, this is the last of the Mohicans. One of his other brothers, Bumper, he was sterile. A fellow named Dennis owned him. I can't remember Dennis's last name. Owned him, and he just had to use him as a road dog. And he told me on one day, some fellas come there, and he stopped 4 dogs in a row with him. As soon as they get one out, he put a nut in, and Bumper wiped that one out. I mean, that's the kind of potentials they had. And then one of them was a retard. He was stupid, and he was a retard, so did away with him. And but they evidently the inbreeding was really, I was really onto the right lines of dogs, I believe. And I was just trying to, and Cecil and me were running in the same direction. I was trying to bring up a Bully Son, more of that Bully Son Art Missy stuff. But anyhow, there was also a black female. Dennis had her. She was a good dog. And Vernon King got her. And I think either she got stolen when the dog stealing went on in his yard with the Mexicans. She either got stolen or she got drowned in that flood. And I lost my Winchester dog. He got drowned. I mean, some of the better dogs he took back. And see, with Harley, I tell him, I said, Vernon, take this dog. He's the last of the Mohicans. Put him to the side. Let him get about 3 years old. Just leave him alone. You got plenty of other stuff here to play around with. I said, leave him alone. I said, if you need to breed him one time, see what he throws. Do him like Pat Stompinato. They never did nothing with Stompinato. I said, if he produces some good dogs, then just leave him alone. I said, that's it.
Yeah.
But dude, he must have fired up Maul. And he told me he had a lot of ability, and so he did, and he lost.
Dang.
And so, and then that mouse dog lost her. But as it went on, when he was running into some serious problems, and I saw the veterinarian report. He mailed me a copy after he had that big win down there with some of them known Mexican dogmen with that Dolly dog. When he started going back into him later, I don't know they were starting to use a rub. I don't know what they were using. Because even the worst of them dogs that we had, they'd go 40 minutes easy. For it didn't end up showing game.
Yeah.
I mean, his condition, the type of condition he could put on a dog, they wasn't no fall. They wasn't no fall out no 30, 40 minutes. Ain't no way. They'd be blowing hot, and you can't breathe and all that. He told me that a couple of them dogs, before he could get them home, they were already dying in the box, in their boxes. And he said he tried to get one of them to the vet, and it died before he could get it there. And the vet did a blood sample, and I saw the report on that. And I don't know what they was using. And I asked him, I said, did you do the wash with the alcohol and all that, and the milk and alcohol and what, the rubbing, the underproof alcohol and whatnot? I think he told me he did. And I said, well, I don't know how they're doing it, but so he kind of got discouraged with it. And anyhow, there's some losing dogs on there in the pedigree right up front. And whether they were rank curs or whether they were you picked them up or whatever happened, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm talking about something that I didn't know nothing about 25, 30 years later, and just talking with him in general.
Mm-hmm.
But still, whatever goes down. And if you don't know all the ins and outs, especially you get up there and run in with the big boys.
Yeah.
And a lot of them big boys, there's lots of big money. And just like with that Homer Jeep match, there was a $10,000 forfeit because when we tried to get Sundown hooked up with that, it was with Jeep at 42 pounds. That was the forfeit there. It was a $10,000 forfeit. So them cats was trying to save their forfeit, and Mr. Stevenson's family did their best and to talk Mr. Stevenson out of letting them use that Homer dog. They told him, don't do it. Let them go get a dog somewhere else. But see, they might have been halfway into the keep, and that Ruby bitch, her name was Ruby. That's the one that beat Mayfield's easy. She was off of Zebo. That dog that they were going to use against Jeep, the dog got off the chain and went over and got on Ruby. Ruby curved her out. That Ruby dog was a bad dog. And so they didn't have no dog. And so they were scrambling, running around trying to find them a dog. And that's how all that went down. And no, trying to be no reflection on the Jeep dog. And then I talked with Mr. Truitt, and my partner watched it, and Mr. Truitt, Mr. Gainey, and they didn't really have much to say about it. Even though it went like 4 hours, they didn't have a whole lot to say about it. They just felt like that they liked the losing dog is what they said. They didn't really have much to say about it one way or the other.
Yeah.
And as history shows, the Jeep dog won. The Homer dog, like you say, if you go through with it, you really don't really try to make no excuses. Yeah. You just suck it up, be a man, suck it up, and go on.
Mm-hmm.
and one last thing. If you got some good dogs and they're your dogs and you like them, like I've said before, don't necessarily give them. And some other fellows out there, they got their own dogs, and they got. See, a lot of them is like football teams. They like their different fans. Some like Mayfield, some like Boudreaux, some like this, some like that, some like the Red Boy fan dogs and so forth. Chances are, if you give them any of your dogs, they're going to treat your dogs a hell of a lot worse than they're going to treat theirs. So you have to be careful about some of that. So anyhow, I've just seen a lot of that in my game, and anytime you're showing some dogs, try to pre-keep them a little bit.
Yeah.
You ain't gonna win no dog pulling weights, pulling the weights, or showing the dog if you bring that dog fat. If that dog's fat looking, they're not gonna do it. They're not gonna win anything.
Nope. Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Was any other questions at all?
No, sir, that's about it. That's about it. I know you're a little under the weather right now. I appreciate everything. I appreciate the interview because I know you're not feeling the 100%.
Yeah. Let's say I'm that 1976 King Golden Flare guy on YouTube, and then I'm CYJ on the other. If somebody wanted to send me a PM or whatever, but I sent one fellow a PM trying to see if he knew that guy, the guy's name that had all them dogs down the road from Mr. Bass.
Yeah.
It was off of Cleo and Red Boy. And I say he had about 20 or 25 of them dogs.
Mm.
And as far as the colors and that black color, I might have confused some of them on that black color. I want to say this one last thing. The black is more of a bull terrier color. And a lot of them dogs that came out of England, if you go back and look at the old pedigrees of them dogs, a lot of them, they came white. They were white with a lot of them had probably black ticking in them, the skin, and then a lot of them come black. And I think I hope I ain't repeating myself. No. I talked to Mr. Johnson. Well, I called him when he first brought it. He first showed them dogs he had in Ralph Greenwood's magazine. Had an article and some pictures of the dogs. There was what he called a Johnson American Bulldogs, what he call them today.
Yeah.
And they supposed to had them dogs back before the Civil War. His family had them. He said he came directly from England. And so I was talking with him, and I asked him, I said, do you get any black ones, any solid black ones? He said, no, I never got a black one. He said they come colored like them Kobe dogs. They were white with brindle patches, red brindle patches, and maybe, and I don't know if he got a brindle or any other colors. But generally the white was the predominant color on them, and then they would have some mixed colors. But he told me he never got a black dog.
Oh, dang!
And now today, if you look at his dogs then, and I think there's one man still trying to stay more to the tradition of the Johnson dogs.
Yeah.
You look today, them suckers is done trying to turn them suckers into a doggone English bulldog looking dog. They're trying to get them squattier.
Yeah.
Get them snub faced, taking all the functionality out of the dogs just to produce a type of show dog.
Yep.
But them dogs were working dogs, and the ones that he had, them were some nice looking dogs. I mean, as far as what they were nice looking dogs.
Yeah. And
they may have been the actual true English bulldog, which we call American bulldog today.
Yep. Yes, sir, man.
Okay.
I appreciate you. I appreciate
that's all I can do today. You can go ahead and sign us off.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you. Y'all brothers and sisters, salute to y'all down in the chat. I appreciate all of y'all. Listen to the video. Hope y'all enjoyed the interview. Y'all stay safe out there. Y'all stay legal out there. PBK9.
Amen.
Yes, sir. You was about to say something?
No, I said amen to that. Stay safe and whatever.
Hey, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Y'all stay safe. Y'all stay legal. PBK9s. And we out.